We're going to talk today about, first of all, my name is Anna Brody. I'm the founder and CEO of Ambassadors, which is an affiliate influencer marketing network connecting between micro-influencers and retailers in order to increase sales. We're here to talk today about a topic that's probably interesting to a lot of people in the audience, how to grow a small business. And we're here with three experts who will tell you all about it from their perspective. As Ben said, we have here today Dr. Angelos Katsaris. I hope I said your name correctly. A professional services director at AVASK, accounting and business consultant, who came all the way from London to be with us today, so thank you for coming. We have Kobi, Haddad, CEO of Isracard Stores, and Michal, Oron, CEO of Fortunet e-commerce investment banking. Thank you all for being here today. Angelos, we'll start with you. Why should merchants consider Europe as part of their growth strategy?
Right. First of all, it's great being here today, and it's a pleasure to be in Tel Aviv primarily. It is my first time that I've been in Israel, and I must say it's a really exciting and very vibrant city with a lot of opportunities. To start with, in terms of Europe, I think it has a lot to offer, and I think maybe everybody may be a little bit afraid in terms of the documentation, paperwork. I think what I would say in this case is that everybody who has faith in their product and whatever you want to achieve internationally, you shouldn't be faced by any new changes in terms of regulations. Changes on rules, documentation, paperwork will always be there. I think the key point is that knowing your products very well, understanding your life cycles of your production, your sourcing, and making sure that you focus on the needs of the customers in the country where you want to expand. At the end of the day, everybody who wants to remain, let's say, in their own country, you can achieve only as much. Outside the country, there's another 7 billion people out there, whereby I would say a fair chunk of it is in Europe. So that would be a good starting point to think of Europe and beyond, let's say.
Thank you. I assume also they have to do research to understand that Europe is the right market for them.
Absolutely, yes. So research in terms of your products, I think understanding the rules in terms of your VAT, the customs procedures, and anything that has to do with packaging and other compliance aspects. I would say Europe has 3 layers of marketplaces that we need to consider. First point is basically we have international marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Shopify. There are regional marketplaces like, for example, Zalando in Germany, Otto, or Bol.com, which are way larger than the international players. And we have very much nationally based marketplace like se.summit in France. All these, they have different requirements in terms of listings, but today, there's people whereby they can assist you in terms of transferring your listings over to those marketplaces and understanding more aspects in terms of the intricacies of its market. AVASK also can be one of those who can actually assist you to that process.
Thank you. Michal, what factors do buyers look at when considering buying a business, and what steps should a small business focus on in order to be considered sellable in the first place?
Okay, so first of all, hi everyone. To your question, a business that presents a solid and sustainable performance is a potential acquisition target. So eventually, business should aspire to be successful, sustainable, and to present a growth trajectory for the long term. If we're talking about building a business with the purpose of selling it eventually, then I believe that this goal should be in front of the mind of the entrepreneur. But mainly two things, or two main directions should be taken into consideration. So one is the potential, the business potential itself. So you should better have some competitive advantage that can serve the business going forward. This can be made by differentiated products, by a unique branding approach, by a unique supply chain or suppliers base. The second thing that should be taken into consideration is also the avoidance of major risk. I think that many times we see small businesses at the first steps of their journey more willing to take risk, to do things not necessarily by the book, and sometimes by doing that, at the same time that they are building a business that can potentially be a very successful business, they are also building its, let's say, its end or its risk, or something that endangers its existence. So legal issues, tax issues, tariffs. Even if you are just at the first step of your business journey, you should refer to yourself and to your business seriously and avoid those mistakes. Maybe I'll give just one example.
When you give the example, can you refer also to the fact that a lot of the small businesses don't have a budget to do that, and that's probably one of the reasons why it's overlooked?
A budget. Yeah, so of course, knowing your financials, understanding what do you generate as of profit and cash flow per each product that you're selling, per product category, per market. We do see many times sellers that actually are not aware of the profit that they are generate, or that do not manage well their cash flow. And sometimes this is a barrier for growth, because if you're missing cash flow, you cannot fund the growth of the business. So of course, this is important. Another example, maybe, if we're talking about brands, direct-to-consumers brands, then sometimes people choose some nice, they invest their own copywriting skills, and they come up with a very nice brand. And even, they go and register the brand. But if you don't conduct a search, and maybe you are infringing some third-party brand, eventually you may find yourself, after investing in the business, developing it based upon this brand, you'll have to rebrand the business. This is costly, sometimes very detrimental to the business itself. So, if to sum up, I think that first of all, and you know what, another comment, people do, these days, e-commerce businesses understand already that they can sell their businesses. With Fortunet, sold close to 100 businesses in the past 3 years, so this is kind of a well-known secret in the industry already. You have a good e-commerce brand, either you manage it on Amazon or Shopify or elsewhere, this is a sellable business. The question is whether you should build the business with the purpose to sell it. The answer is that yes, you can do it, but you should treat your business as if you're not going to sell it. So you should develop it and build it for the long term, base it on real strong fundamentals to make sure that this is a good business even for you to hold it until the end of your life. So my recommendation will be build your business as if you are not going to sell it, but make sure that in case that you will want to sell it sometimes, there will not be any major obstacles.
Thank you. Great tip. Kobi, the microphone, Michal.
Hear it.
What will happen to e-commerce in an inflation era, and how will it affect small businesses?
Well, as I discussed before, I think that inflation is a huge problem short term for us as customers, but also for businesses, because money value is getting money is cheaper today, and it's going to be like that probably for the next few months or years. And I think that businesses, small businesses, large businesses can make all these strategies to protect themselves. Small businesses can't. And if someone has money for buying some products, and he waits too much, then probably his capital won't be enough to buy the products he needs, or any other need he has that is somewhat financial. So I think it's not going to be a good short-term future for small businesses, and I think that short-term, small businesses need to think of very intelligent ways how to get it out of that loop, which means maybe handling more inventory, which probably the actual inventory, they will be able to sell it in a higher price, and that way avoid all inflation. I do think that every small business has to think about how the next year is going to look. And I think with the right approach, he can minimize his impact.
Thank you, Kobi. Angelos, got a microphone. What are your top tips for success when a business expands into the EU region, Europe region?
So I would say, and Michal already mentioned this, I think it's the key part that I would say is the product cost analysis and knowing your finances. I think it's really important for anybody who expands and being present in Europe is to know their margins. It may sound not the fun part of running a business as such, and it's not something that we would all be very much, having like spending our time, in a more productive way. But I would say knowing your numbers, knowing that, for example, you have received the funds that you have actually planned to have. It's the first part. The second part, I would say, which is very important, is to know how to have a multi-storage approach. So a key mistake that a lot of sellers do when they go to Europe or like overseas is that they may focus only on one big marketplace. We all know that Amazon offers the FBA option. But I would say post-COVID, the options have increased, and I would say as sellers, I would say it is very important to understand what multi-storage options may have through a third-party logistics warehouse, whereby you'll be able to diversify your storefront, being able to de-risk your operations, and in this way you are able to make better use of all your inventory in multiple marketplaces, whereas by storing your goods only, for example, on FBA, it is a good entry point, to test the waters, let's say, in certain countries. But I would say knowing, for example, the potential of other platforms, making sure that you understand the flow of cash and how you can maximize your profits and your income, I think it is a key part. But above everything is also knowing how you can make the most of your sourcing routines. Because, for example, sourcing from China, for example, it has certain interesting points like lower costs that may seemingly be more attractive. However, if, for example, there are local sourcing manufacturers whereby they can give you a better quality, or they have a better process in terms of minimum quantities and volumes, that would be also compromise you in terms of it could be a trade-off for quality of your products. So it's basically knowing the whole life cycle of the business and how it progresses across the market.
Thank you. Michal. At what stage is a business considered sellable, and what are the steps a business owner should take in order to build a sellable business that can support higher valuation? And is it advisable to take a consultant, or is it possible to make it on their own?
Okay, so 2 questions you have here. First, what is a sellable business? I think that I referred to it already. I believe that business is sellable. You know, the obvious answer is that the business is sellable once there is a buyer who will be interested. This will happen once the business is solid enough, present sustainable growth, cash flow, positive cash flow opportunity and profitability over time. And in order to convince a buyer that those aspects are being met, I believe that a certain size of a business should be achieved, unless the business is based on a unique product and the first steps that the business made in the market were more of a proof of concept. E-commerce businesses can be acquired by e-commerce companies. So there are those companies today that are looking to become the Procter & Gamble, the new Procter & Gamble players of the world. There are strategic buyers that want to expand into the e-commerce space. So if they have, let's say, a traditional business in the medical device industry and they don't sell it online, one way to enter the e-commerce space is through acquisitions. So these will look at such opportunities. And other are more, let's say, private equities or more financial investors that just see the huge opportunity that the e-commerce present, and those will usually invest or acquire the bigger businesses, which shouldn't be that big, but not too small. As for your question about whether you should sell your business by yourself or should be consulted while you're doing it, I think that my answer is I'll divide it to 2 aspects. One is that selling a business, maybe it's the most important business decision that you can make with respect to this same business. Sometimes this is a life-changing event for the seller, and sometimes even the most important decision one will make in their life. So I would imagine that once such a decision, someone is facing such a decision, should better be consulted with someone that is experienced with doing these processes. This is not will be already made his multiple mistakes that he can now avoid repeating. You shouldn't learn by yourself over your sole baby. So the answer is yes, I believe that, and there is a lot what to know about it. The second point to consider is that many times once you're selling your business, you are dealing with buyers that they are experienced with acquisitions. So the situation from the first place is not balanced, and you should better balance it by being equipped by your own consultant. So yes, my strong recommendation would be not to do it alone.
Sometimes it's better to spend a little more money and save it afterwards while doing it by yourself.
Actually, statistics shows that you don't spend money, you earn more money if you're being consulted. Selling the business by yourself would usually end up with getting much less than what the business is really worth.
Exactly my point. Thank you. Kobi, do you have a microphone? Yes. What are the challenges and opportunities a small business should anticipate when growing, and how can they prepare in advance?
Well, the first one is logistics. Once you get bigger in e-commerce, then comes the pain of logistics and customer services. You have more sales, so you grow, but you have more people with complaints that you need to handle. Also, when you do it when you're small, I could give you an example. We once had a customer that started his business. We have a lot of them, but this one I know personally. He started his business from his own house, and then he succeeded very much. But in that phase, he couldn't grow more because he needed to move everything to a warehouse, which is, for him, was a huge pain. He wasn't any logistics expert. So the whole momentum stopped. And once someone creates something and he doesn't have momentum, he or she, then it's much harder to keep up the growth where he stopped. So basically, I think that small businesses need to get prepared by thinking about logistics. What are they going to do when they have more sales? What are they going to do when they have more telephones from customers? And of course, all about marketing. But this is the reason from growth. So when you're a small business, you're starting your business, think about how to simplify the whole growth process. And imagine yourself selling 10x, maybe 50x than what you're selling right now, and then say, okay, could I take care of 50x with what I have right now? And if not, start acting.
Yep. So expanding a little bit in order to be able to sell more.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Angelos, what is the point a small business is no longer considered a small business? I think that's a question that a lot of people ask themselves.
That's a very good question, because I would say it's a multifaceted aspect that several aspects to consider. I would say it's when, for example, you have SOPs in place, so standard operating procedures, which means that you understand your life cycle of how you do things. So when you have a certain way of processing your manufacturing, your orders, your marketing, etc. I think that's the first part. The second one, I would say, is when the business has more of a global outreach, probably, because in this case, it's basically you are pushing for more automation, and this is a part that is going to bring more scalability for your business, for your production, for reviews, or even looking into other ways to automate and mitigate lost time or downtime with admin. Because small businesses, when they start, it's a one-man band or 2 or 3 people that try to make it up. But I would say it's really important to consider that trying to automate and reduce the admin time is the one that will push you ahead. And it's also understanding where your customers are in general, because the sooner you understand the customer's needs is where you can actually mitigate other aspects of your business, reduce admin. And to be honest, it's a way to push ahead and diversify also in other ways, and bring more software in the business that will save time and money for you and for the customers eventually.
Thank you, Angelos. Michal, what are the most common mistakes small businesses make which prevent them from growing?
Maybe the most important thing when we're looking at businesses and why they are why they have become successful. Okay, why they were small ones, and then they reached to a certain point that they're not small anymore, and they're sometimes dominating their category. I think that the strongest differentiator part is the spirit of the manager or the owner. This is owning such a business. It's not. Sometimes it is perceived as like a computer game because you're sitting at your desk with your pajama and I don't know, you play with PC, you order products from China, you send them to some warehouse. It all looks virtual. But the truth is that you have a real business to manage, 360 degrees of a business, including supply chain and regulation and finance and marketing and collection and employees and branding and pricing. And there are challenges. I mean, no one can expect just because he know some young person, I don't know, let's imagine 27-year-old guy who holds a business with a $20-30 million revenue. So someone can expect that this should be very easy to replicate and can expect that, okay, I'll start. I found an amazing product. There will be a boom. And then the first time that he meets a challenge, he doesn't know what to do, and he loses spirit. So I think that the most important thing is to be ready to fight over your business, to consult with the right people during this road. There are good consultants for everything. In this industry, by the way, many times we see sellers or brand owners that they are self-made men, so they know to do everything by their own, which is great on one hand. On the other hand, using others, using experts and others' and knowledge and experience is like buying time. It shortens processes, and it can free you to really concentrate on what is important for your business. So my recommendation would be to be ready to deal with challenges, to fight, and not to see it as a failure if you need to consult with others and to use their others' experience.
I agree. Thank you, Michal. Kobi, your microphone. We all know it's scary to fail, but it can also be scary to succeed because success is something that needs maintaining. What should a growing successful business do in order to maintain its success?
Basically, take the money and run. But seriously, I think that once you get to, it's like stairs. Once you get to one place, then you might have more sales, but then you have more expenses, and you have more obligations. And so it never seems like you're out of the loop. Maybe if you sold your company, but when you're in the business, it's always, and when we see a lot of businesses, it's always like to the next step. So first of all, appreciation for what you have done and where you are. But when you manage the business, try to always think of what brought you to the current stage, and try to scale these methods. If it's a unique brand, if it's a unique technology or unique way of selling or providing, once you understand that you have to give value even at scale. So when you start to succeed, you think, okay, I brought value, that's why I'm succeeding. But I think that the right state of mind is, how do I continue giving value and providing, and if I can't give you value and scale, then I'm not doing something right. And even if I'm succeeding right now, then I'm probably not going to succeed in the future. So I think that if your mindset is, how do I provide value to my customers, then you're on a good way to continue succeeding.
So always be alert.
Yeah.
Yep. I can tell you that one of the best things that I did as a growing business was to take a leap of faith and take staff to take over tasks that I shouldn't be managing and giving it to somebody else so I can focus on the strategy. Thank you very much, everybody, thank you very much for being here. Thank you.